The key takeaway from my keynote presentation yesterday on smarter services, learning from the leaders, is exactly that, smarter services. What we've seen is that many organizations believe that if they do something quicker or cheaper, that it's better, but that's not necessarily the case. It's got to be done smarter, and that involves an interactive relationship with the customer, with the service organizations that they support. Without that, it's just same old, just a little less expensive or faster. You don't want to repeat the mistakes and do them even quicker. So smarter services means partnering with your customers, learning what they need, learning how to support them, and giving them the sense that you're in it together. You're not just in a vendor-customer relationship. Well, that would be an easier question to have answered either 5 years ago or 5 years from now. Right now, we're in a period of transition. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it would be easy to say the UK is 3, 4, 5 years behind the United States. That's not the case anymore. In some key areas like adapting technology, adapting the cloud, pretty much even in many cases. With respect to remote services, the UK and the US, we don't see in our research any differences in the embracing of that kind of technology. Where we do see some differences, though, is it appears to be a little bit more difficult in the UK to get buy-in from your senior management to implement some of the technology. One other thing that we've seen from our research is that in the area of customer web-enabled self-support, the UK apparently looks just a little bit behind the United States. But in terms of running a service as a line of business, as a profit center, there still is a little bit of a difference. About 55% of the organizations that we've surveyed in the US are running it with its own profit center. In the UK, it's about 48%. So there still is a little bit of difference there, but we see things evening out. In 5 years from now, we'll see the gaps close up even more. Innovation in the service world is a difficult thing to wrap your brain around sometimes, because one can argue that everything that's being done today in service has been done previously, maybe just not as automated, not as technologically based, not as smart in terms of smarter services. But I think that the advent and the proliferation of the use of the cloud has really normalized the playing field. What we're seeing is that many of the smaller organizations, we call them SMBs, are able for the first time to start using some of the same resources that the large enterprises have been using for years. Secondly, I'd like to say that remote services has really taken a hold. And whereas all the talk 5-10 years ago was on RFIDs, still an important role in remote services and in the services industry, but nobody's talking about that very much anymore. It's old news. But remote services has seen a much faster track toward general adoption, both in the UK and in the US. The key to smarter services over the next decade is not to treat your customers as just customers. You've got to enter into a partnership with them, and it cannot be just lip service. It's got to be a real partnership. So in order to have that partnership, you have to understand what their needs are. You have to understand what happens to them when their systems fail or when just a device fails. You have to understand the pain that they go through when things aren't working the way that they were promised they were going to work. And if you can position yourself as one of their partners, then they're going to appreciate you more, and your customer satisfaction will increase, your customer loyalty and retention will increase, and basically getting back to the basics is what it's all about. 25 years ago, it was all break-fix hardware support. Then with the proliferation of networks, it became software support, then depot repair support. Now it's professional services, customer, web-based self-enablement, and all of these things. So what was the basics 25 years ago is just a drop in the ocean compared to what the basics are today. And 10 years from now, there'll be new basics that are still on the horizon, but in 10 years, they'll be part of the getting back to the basics. So service organizations and vendor organizations need to constantly monitor where they stand internally, where the market stands, where the technology stands, and to redefine what the basics are at every given moment. If they can do that, and if they can partner with their vendors and their customers, then I think the service community will be best served in the next 10 years.